Morning Herald had a go at you this week for appearing with David Adler and the Australian Jewish Association. David Adler's often on this show and on Sky. They had a go at you, which was pretty lowbrow. You were the ambassador in Israel. You were the member for Wentworth for a long time, a large Jewish constituency. What has been the impact of October 7th on the Jewish communities of Australia? And have the government done enough to address that?
Well, the impact has been massive. I don't think the Jewish community in Australia has ever felt as unsafe or threatened as they have in the wake of the 7th of October. And I think, frankly, they've been let down by their political leadership in their government. It's failed to give a clear signal about the unacceptable rise in anti-Semitism. And as a result, it's given licence to a whole lot of, awful sentiments towards Jewish people that have basically been allowed to run rampant. So I think the Jewish community feels let down, they feel besieged, they feel threatened, and they wonder what's become of the Australia that has been their home, many of them, since Australia's settlement. The Jewish population in Australia goes back to the First Fleet. Many of them who came here in the wake of the Second World War, fleeing the Holocaust and building a life here, many of whom have helped make Australia tremendously, prosperous, successful, innovative, culturally enriched nation, and they're wondering, is there still a home for us here? Are we still welcome here?
Well, I want to get back to this hit job the Sydney Morning Herald launched against you and the Australian Jewish Association. What's your response to that? Because they quoted Labor MPs who were accusing you of encouraging extremism. I'm laughing because it's so utterly absurd on the face of it, but this was in a major Australian newspaper. What's your response to it?
Well, look, the Australian Jewish Association represents part of the Jewish community in Australia. I don't pretend they don't pretend they represent all of it. And as far as I'm aware, they have not been calling for the destruction of a nascent Palestinian state. They have not been saying death to Arabs or gas the Arabs. They have not been agitating protests. They have not been calling for property damage. But we have Labor MPs who meet all the time with the Australian Palestine Advocacy Network. Penny Wong met with Nasser Majni just a few days after the October 7th attacks. Now, our APAN has called for the destruction of the Jewish state, the elimination of the state of Israel. They're behind this letter, open signed letter by public servants. They're behind a number of the protests on university campuses.
But that's not supporting extremism.
For some reason, that's okay.
That's not supporting extremism.
The Jewish organisation is not.